I'm gonna go live now, so let's
All right.
do it. Okay. I think we're live. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's March 14th, 2021, Sunday live stream. I've got Rafi Farber. He was nice and kind enough to spare some of his time. It is 11 p.m. In where he is in Israel, so it's very nice of him to join us. He was just speaking about something when he came on about something called non-fungible tokens. It seems like the cryptocurrency I don't know, bubble is getting crazier and crazier, but that's not what we're here to talk about that much, really, even though you guys can ask anything you want. So Rafi, before I want to introduce Rafi and tell people that you can, let's do it here. Let's share it. Okay. Yeah, you can find Rafi's work on Seeking Alpha. You can read his daily articles or pretty much daily articles on AstroLib. He also has a subscription service. He says, I invest in the light of Austrian business cycle theory and cover monetary trends for the purpose of timing and credit cycle. My market service, the libertarian investor, helps
the end game investor. That's a mistake there.
The end game investors helps investors manage risk, profit from ongoing fiscal monetary crisis precipitated by COVID pandemic. He says, I use gold, silver, and associated stocks and investment vehicles in a low risk, high return setup. So yeah, I highly recommend Rafi's service. He's got over 6,000 followers. And yes, for those of you who do like a little bit of trading, because we can still use the system to help ourselves, even though I try to stay outside the system as much as possible with physical gold and silver. So Rafi, with that, do you have some words, and what do you think is going to be really important this coming week for the markets and everything else?
Well, this coming week, I don't know if I can pin it down that precisely. But the thing I'm watching now is that it seems to be that the bond market is testing the Fed's resolve to see when they will go in and stop yields from rising. It seems to me that especially on the long end of the curve from 10 to 30, and we got another 20-year auction, coming this week, that traders are really pushing yields higher. I mean, the prices of bonds are going lower and waiting to see at what point the Fed's going to break. And I think at the point where they do and they announce yield curve control, that could be the final bottom for gold, or whatever number that ends up being. I don't know, but at some point, everyone's going to figure out that they're not going to stop printing money, and they're only going to accelerate it. I think that point is coming relatively soon. I don't know how soon, but yeah, it keeps getting closer and closer, and it might be that. That the Fed might be letting the bullion banks cover their gold shorts more efficiently now with the price lower, and they don't want to go in until the bullion banks give them the all clear, because they're all on the same team here. That's my theory. I can't really prove that, but that's what seems to be happening.
Yeah, and the other thing I think is really important is this SLR, statutory leverage ratio, because even if they announce yield curve control on Wednesday at the FOMC, yield curve control will probably also require more QE, because if the market tests that level, they will have to print more money, and without extending the SLR, they can't do that. The other nuclear option I've spoken about in the last week is that the Fed starts doing QE straight from the Treasury, and I think that would be really crossing the monetary Rubicon into hyperinflation. So yeah, tonight we're gonna try to take as many questions as possible because I think that's a good thing because our live streams are getting bigger and bigger, more people, and a lot of times we don't get to ask, answer questions. So you guys, the viewers, please, ask whatever questions you want, reasonable questions, of course. Someone asked if Billy was selling his silver, and no, Billy is still acquiring silver. He said he's going to hang on. He said Cliff said silver's going to be worth more than gold. So there you go. We got a question here from Richard, super chat. Thank you, Richard. When hyperinflation arrived and the gold price spikes to 15,000, leading to 50,000, when should you sell? Perhaps when digital fiat system arrives. Do you want to answer that, Rafi?
No, I mean, I would answer this similar to how Alistair McLeod answers this question. It's not a question of selling. Selling for what? Like, once you have money, what are you going to sell it for? You're going to sell it for goods and services. You're going to use the stuff. That's really what we're preparing for. I'm not using gold and silver to make fiat profits. I'm assuming fiat is going to be dead. It's not going to buy anything. It's not going to work anymore. And people are going to want gold and silver or substitutes for gold and silver if some kind of other credit or paper system or even a gold-backed or silver-backed blockchain. It doesn't matter what the technology is that distributes it. I don't care. But I'm not going to sell. I'm going to use it to acquire goods and services, just like I use dollars and shekels and euros to acquire goods and services now, because that still works. And by Gresham's law, that overvalued money drives out undervalued money. Once the overvalued money loses all of its value, the only money you have left is the gold and silver that you have. So use it. Buy food, buy stuff.
Yeah, I recommend people watch a video by Bellin GP about hyperinflation in Venezuela. And if you'd sold your gold, if you thought it was worth a lot, let's say it was around 14,000 bolivars before the hyperinflation, and it went to like 30 million. If you'd sold that, a few months later, you would have been wiped out. So the lesson of hyperinflation: don't sell your gold for the currency that is collapsing. Someone is asking here, I'll answer this one because I lived it. What happened in Brazil in regards to hyperinflation? Well, the thing about Brazil is that I was there, I think it was in the late 80s, maybe 87, 88. I think it was 87. There was a currency collapse. So to give you an example, yes, it was very disruptive for a few months. There's the supermarket shelves were fairly empty. I've spoken about my uncle, who's a doctor. He had bought like a house for his new practice, and he completed the purchase the day before the currency was collapsed, and they brought a new currency, and he was fine. He was lucky because he got rid of the old currency for something tangible like real estate. But the guy who unluckily completed the sale the day before, he got left holding the bag. The thing about Brazil is that people who knew what was going on, unfortunately, like my father knew what was going on. He had a lot of his assets outside the Brazilian currency in dollars and so on. So, but now, but it isn't the end of the world. You see, maybe it's because in Brazil they've been used to it for so long that life just goes on. Maybe in the United States and Western Europe, it will be quite a big shock to people. But I don't think, I think it's actually a good thing. It will flush out this debt-induced system, and and it will be, it will be difficult because in Brazil you had an option, the dollar, and still today, I think Brazilians view the dollar as a hard currency. So that's what happened in Brazil. It's not the end of the world. A lot of opportunities, for the people who don't have that much anyway. It doesn't really change much, but it isn't easy. So we got another question here. I think Peter Wilson with the super chat. Why Mar only took 2 years to destroy the paper mark? How long will it take for the US dollar to die? I'll let Rafi answer that one.
Of course, I don't know exactly, but
What do you mean you don't know, Rafi?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can extrapolate based on logic. It's what I can do. I mean, I assume the only thing that slowed down the hyperinflation in Germany in the 1920s was the fact that they had to physically hand out paper cash to people to pay their salaries, and that was the only thing that slowed it down. But now we have a digital economy. You can make payments in fractions of a second through any kind of system. So the people can get rid of money for goods much faster than they could in the 1920s. So if it took a year, from the point where the psychological threshold is crossed and people understand what is happening and they say, I have to get rid of this money as soon as possible. Then from that point until the end, instead of 2 years, it could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be 2 weeks. It's probably gonna be a lot less than 2 years. But I mean, for example, if you want to know something totally crazy, and I'm not proud of this at all, but I'm getting $8,400 from the Biden bailout bill, the 1.9 trillion. We call it a stimulus. I don't even want to call it stimulus. It's just theft. And but I'm getting that money, and what am I going to do? I'm getting rid of it as soon as possible. I'm buying gold, silver, maybe a few mining stocks, some physical. We'll see. I mean, that asset class definitely as soon as I can, because I don't want this.
Yeah,
$8,400.
I thought it was nuts. I thought it was 20,000.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you include all the tax breaks, the tax credits that I'm getting, it's something like that. And that's not even counting my last kid, who's not even a citizen because the embassy shut down, before I could make an appointment for her. So, I would be getting something like $10,000, but I'm just talking about the cash, not the tax credits.
I think that's gonna impact people psychologically. People that are not getting this 8,000, for example, they're gonna see, how can this person get this and I have to work really hard for it? How can it be worth anything if people can just get it for nothing? And I think that will have an impact. So we have another question here from Chris Conman. Thank you for the super chat, Chris. He says, Mario, thank you for your hard work, dedication, and research for all your daily videos. What is the difference between gold's current tier level and if it is moved to tier 1 level? I'll answer that one then. Maybe Rafi wants to add to it later. But there's been a lot of talk about gold becoming a tier 1 asset under Basel III rules. And I made a video back in March 2019 because there were people like, I'm going to tell his name is Andrew McGuire. He was saying, on March 29th, 2019, gold will become a tier 1 asset under BIS rules. And it never did. Now he's coming out again saying it's going to become a tier 1 asset this year. Back in March 2019, I called the BIS. They said, no, it's not a tier 1 asset yet. I haven't seen anything from the BIS in Basel saying it's going to become a tier 1 asset. Right now, as it is, it's considered a tier 3 asset, and you can value it for credit risk at, I think, something like 85% of its value. But I sent an email to the BIS press office last week asking about this. They haven't replied yet, and I think it's a bit yeah, I don't know where these people are getting that it's going to become a tier one asset. Not that I don't think it's a good thing. Not that I don't think gold should be. I think gold is the least riskiest asset that a bank could have in its balance sheet. And someone sent me a direct message on Twitter today showing me how the BIS actually increased a lot of its gold holdings last year. BIS, I also remember until a few years ago, they used to their currency for accounting purposes was gold. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're buying more. So would you like to add to that, Rafi, about this tier one story?
Yeah, well, what I would say in a more general sense on that kind of topic is that if you look at after every financial crisis, going all the way back to the 19th century, even the banking system gets more and more complicated with more and more regulations designed to prevent the last crisis. So, I mean, but it just makes the whole system that much more unstable with all these centralized rules that violate free market norms. Free market norms is you have little collapses of failing banks, maybe sometimes, and then but that strengthens the other ones that don't make the same mistakes. But when you put all the banks under the same rules, you're just making the system more inherently unstable. So everyone focusing on these centralized rules are missing the point. I mean, the entire system is going to come down, and none of these ever more complicated regulatory systems to save the banks are going to work, and the whole system is going to come down. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 17, who cares? I mean, I don't even follow this.
All right, good. Another question here, Carlitos Reviews. Thank you for your super chat. I purchase every book you recommend. What are your thoughts on 9 to 5 silver, sterling silver jewelry, other 9 to 5 silver? Silver 9 to 5 just means the purity of the silver. There's 92.5% silver, and the rest is an alloy. Bullion coins usually are 999. They're not as sturdy, but the old coins like I have here, florin, that's a sterling coin. Jewelry is great as well. I mean, you can sell your scrap jewelry, sterling jewelry, and dealers will, refiners will buy it. Yeah, I like all kinds of silver. A lot of the European coins, the let's say the post-World War II European coins are 80% silver. So it doesn't really matter. All you need to know if you're going to buy it or sell it is to work out, the pure silver weight. Someone asked here, Neil Moy, what is Basel III? Well, Basel III is a set of banking rules, like regulatory rules for the too big to fail banks, for the big international banks. That is brought upon or published or implemented by the Bank for International Settlements in Basel. The Bank for International Settlements is the central bank is the bank for the central banks, and they've got a part of their institution called the Financial Stability Board. And they started out with Basel rules, and then after, like Rafi said, after every crisis, there's a Basel 2. Now we've got Basel 3. That was after the 08 crisis. We'll probably get a Basel 4, like he was saying. So yeah, that's what it is. It's the people who control the money supply. It's their rules to keep us really under their thumb. And that's why if you want to be outside this banking system, just don't be in it. Save in gold and silver, buy assets, don't keep a big balance in the bank. Willie Gerard, thank you for your super chat. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought all previous changes in reserve currencies coincided with or resulted from a hot war. Do you want to answer that one, Rafi?
All currency crises result from a hot war?
Yeah. Well, every time you have a change in the reserve currency, like, sterling was dethroned, with both world wars, I guess.
Yeah,
And,
well, I guess I could answer that in terms of it's not really the war that does it. I mean, war is a horrible thing. People kill each other. We don't want that. But it's really the financial consequences of a war, because in a war you spend a lot of money to fight the war. I mean, that's what causes the financial crisis and the end of reserve currencies. It's the spending, the killing of that currency by spending it to death. And I mean, the one good thing about this war on COVID, I don't even want to call it a good thing. I mean, but at least we're not like killing each other in the streets.
Yeah.
We're killing ourselves in our own houses and just spending the currency to death that way. I mean, we're spending a lot more on this COVID madness than we did on World War II. I mean, maybe it looks that way. I mean, the trillions and trillions just never stops. But what causes the collapse of a reserve currency is the financial insanity, which we are clearly going through now. There's no question about that.
I think what sometimes leads to a hot war is the fact that the currency collapses. And for example, if and when that happens, the US will be owing a lot of money to a lot of people. And that's maybe when the war is triggered to settle, if they can't settle their accounts on the negotiating table, they'll go to a war. That I think that's what happens personally. Another question here from Helsinki. Thank you, Helsinki, for your super chat. Why would the governments do the right thing now and back the currency with gold and silver when it will only take the power away from them? It's mismanaged forever, so why now? Thanks.
Well, if they don't, they would just disintegrate. I mean, once hyperinflation hits the dollar, if they don't back it with gold at a fixed price and exchangeable and physical for anyone who wants it, then they won't be able to pay all of the bureaucrats who and all of the government workers who need to be fed and need to buy food in the supermarket. The whole thing just comes crashing down. It's not like they would choose. The government never chooses to do the right thing. They're forced into either oblivion or to do the right thing. They'll have that choice. It's like, even when I can point to this in my own life, like in the monumental decisions I've made in my life, I've never felt like I could either choose one thing or another. I felt like I was compelled to do a certain thing because I really had no choice. And I think a lot of people can see that sort of pattern in their lives too. Like, if you come to a big fork in the road, you know where you have to go and you know where you shouldn't go, and so you feel like you have no choice. But the same thing will happen to the governments. Either they'll decide to, okay, game over, and I'm just forget it, or they'll go to a hard currency because there will be no other choice.
Okay, we got another question here from Patrick Bateman. Thank you for the super chat. I'll answer that one. Maybe Rafi might want to add something to it. Can we hide in crypto? Will we see 1960s taxes? Well, there's two things about crypto. If you don't want to be taxed, if you're able to basically deal with someone that likes cryptos, let's say that person wants to sell his house to you, you just pay him in cryptos and that's it. You don't transfer the crypto into the local fiat currency. I don't think they would. That's barter directly. But if you transfer your crypto into the local fiat currency, yes, you'll probably be liable to a lot of tax if you've made a lot of capital gains. And it depends where you live, what country. And will we see 1960s taxes? I hope not, but it doesn't look good though with all the debt they're taking. I can't answer that. The other thing I would say, at least here in the UK, and it's one of the reasons I prefer precious metals, and it's a free market. I get a lot of people, oh, you got to get into crypto, but no, I do what I do for my own reasons. But in the UK, if you have coins of the realm, be it gold or silver, there is no capital gains tax because they're considered legal tender. So you have to check that in your own country, what the rules are.
Mm-hmm.
Olgi from Norway, thank you for the super chat. Heard on a podcast, can't remember the name, but he said the Canadian dollar is the first currency who goes to the trash. Do you both agree with that, Rafi?
I don't know. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think what he's saying, what that podcast might have been focusing on, was the fact that the Canadian central bank balance sheet, I think quintupled, and it quintupled in like a week or two in March of last year. So I think that's what they're referring to. I don't know the mechanics of why the Canadian dollar had to inflate itself so quickly at that point, but I also hear that the lockdowns in Canada are getting pretty crazy, and the restrictions against normal life are pretty bad there. So yeah, it could be one of the first. But
Yeah.
once the dollar goes, they all go.
Yeah, that's right. The other thing I would say about the Canadian central bank is I think they own 0 ounces of gold.
Yeah, yeah.
So most of us here in this live stream have more gold than the Bank of Canada, even though Canada is very rich in resources, though. But like Rafi said, they're all going to go because the current system, the dollar is at the base of the system. So if the dollar goes, every other currency goes. That's the way I see it too. Daniel Thacker, why is the Federal Reserve trying to destroy their own currency? Because I personally think because they don't care, because they have a lot of other ways. They're owned by the big Wall Street banks. The big Wall Street banks they've already sucked so much asset from the general public for over 100 years. I think they look at a currency as a way to confiscate the wealth from the people. So they don't care really if their currency collapses. I think it was Secretary of the Treasury John Connolly who said to the French and the Germans just before I think it was around the time of when Nixon closed the gold window. He said, you know, the dollar is our currency, but it's your problem. So that's the way they look at it, I think. Anything to add there, Rafi?
Well, it's not. I don't even think they're trying to destroy it. I mean, if we were to speak to Powell one on one and try to figure out what he actually believed about anything, I don't even know what he would say. I mean, these people are so technocratic at this point, and they're so mechanical in what they do and all these weird calculus-based graphs that they see, that it seems that they have disconnected their minds with any semblance of common sense and reality. So I don't even know what they're trying to do. They're looking at their Keynesian textbooks and I don't know what.
Yeah.
But they're just completely disconnected from what I see. I don't think they're trying to do anything.
Yeah. So there's a question here before I go to Dimitri. So I don't forget. Have you done vaccine? Someone's asking. Maneco, have you done vaccine? I assume you mean have you had the vaccine? No, and I don't plan to. There's my answer. What about you, Rafi?
Well, my policy is that whenever somebody asks me that question, I quote Bill. I quote Bill Murray in Ghostbusters. If somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes. So if somebody asks me if I'm vaccinated, I say yes.
All right. Okay, that's maybe a good thing to say. Yeah. I can't really understand why someone would want a vaccine for something that you have a 99.9 chance of surviving. And what I'm doing, John Franco, is I'm exercising a lot, even though I can't play golf yet. I walk about an hour and a half around the park every day. I take maybe one day off. I went today, I went yesterday, and I feel really good. And I try to eat as well as possible, not drink too much alcohol, maybe, twice a week. I have a few drinks, but that's about it. So Dimitri Shmerkovich, thank you for your super chat. Can one country, say Russia or China, just go to a gold standard? I think you mean he wrote a good standard. I think you mean a gold standard. Yes, but they have to make sure they have enough gold, and they might Yeah, they could, and that would totally destroy the dollar. I think if China and Russia declared together that they're going on a gold standard, they're kind of dealing with each other quite a bit with gold because uh, when they deal in oil and other resources, I think the Russians are getting payment in yuan, and they can also exchange that at the Shanghai Gold Exchange for physical gold. So they're kind of dealing in gold. So what do you think, Rafi, about that question?
Yeah, I hear rumors that China has a lot of gold that they're not declaring. I don't know about the veracity of any of these stories. I don't really understand the Chinese mentality or way of thinking or how they operate so much. It's a very different way of thinking that I'm used to. But Russia, I think it has a more Western mentality, and I can understand what they're trying to do a little bit more. If you go to tradingeconomics.com, it's a very, very useful site. You can see the gold reserves of at least the declared ones of Russia. And you see, I think over the past 15, 20 years, their money supply, the ruble supply, has been going in lockstep with their gold reserves. So it's clear that they are actively on a gold standard right now. It's not really realized yet, but that's what they're doing. And if Putin pulls the rug from under the dollar and declares that the ruble is now gold backed, and then pulls China along with him, that would be a very Sun Tzu art of war type of move. It would be pretty spectacular. It would cause Russia and China some serious short-term economic problems. But yeah, it would be the best solution for them, and it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you on Twitter, Rafi? Can you tell someone asked if you're on Twitter?
Yes, I am. My Twitter handle is my name, at Rafi Farber, RafiFarber.
Okay. Someone is asking here about a Chinese currency crisis. Well, I've been following, the Chinese yuan for the last 6 months, and if anything, the dollar's been dropping quite a bit against the Chinese yuan. So if anything, I see a dollar crisis, not a yuan crisis. Uh, I think the dollar made a double top at 7.20. So with $1, you could buy 7 yuan's 20, and now it's around 6.50. So if anything, it's the dollar that's under pressure. I wouldn't say, but the yuan would get hurt as well if when the dollar goes down, accelerates even more downward versus commodities.
Yeah, if you think about it less in terms of exchange rates between currencies and more in terms of what the Chinese actually do with their time to make a living, they spend their time making a bunch of stuff for Americans to consume, and collecting dollars on that. So like that's going to have to change. They're going to have to still make stuff, but not for Americans who won't be able to afford it anymore. They'll have to make stuff either for other Chinese people or other Asians, Russia. A lot less stuff is going to go to America. A lot more stuff is going to be traded inter-Asia or with Europe. Maybe not even Europe. I mean, they're also in debt up to their eyeballs. So, the whole economy is going to have to be restructured, and it's going to be hard for them. I mean, they're not going to come out immune from this.
I think the Chinese are aware of what's happening, and they are switching their economy more and more towards consumption, domestic consumption. So I think they're ahead of the curve. I know there's a lot of anti-Chinese feeling, and I'm not making any judgment about the way they run things, but I think they've done a very good job economically. They've brought hundreds of millions of people, or if not a billion people, out of poverty in about 30 years. So yeah, you might argue about the way they've done that, but they've done it.
Well, following the Great Leap Forward and Mao's Great Famine and then the Cultural Revolution, it's not that hard comparatively to get better than that.
Yeah. So we got another question here, Mr. Ashford. Thank you for your super chat. Hi, Mario. What do you and Rafi think of the technical picture of gold and silver, specifically this consolidation period and where it sits just now? I'll let you answer that, Rafi.
Okay, so I don't place that much emphasis on short-term chart patterns. I look at them from time to time, and I look at them for some support on the fundamentals. But what I think the main factors are now is that physical demand for real physical gold and silver on the COMEX and in the monetary coin markets, and that has not abated, and premiums are still high. So physical demand is keeping the price from going much lower, while the bullion banks are busy covering their shorts as fast as they can, and they've been doing a pretty good job of that. I think they're down to 125,000 contracts this week. It was up from like over 200,000 maybe 3 weeks ago. So they've covered it quite a bit. So I think short term, until the Fed blinks, until the Fed decides we're going to do yield curve control, we're going to extend the SLR exemption so the banks can buy more treasuries. Until that happens, I think gold's going to trade in a pretty tight range near where it is now. But I don't see it going that much lower, because the physical demand is clearly picking up, and it's not going away.
Yeah, and I would add that the premiums are also still really high if you want to buy gold or silver. I think gold is like in some instances like $100 to $200 above the spot price. If you
I
want to
heard
buy
that the
real
Perth
gold.
Mint. I heard that the Perth Mint has stopped selling gold and silver entirely. I'm not sure if that's true, but I've heard that, and I've seen a few tweets about it.
Yeah, I heard as well. I think it's from Andy Schechtman. He said that a few times in the last few weeks, that the U.S. Mint might shut down for 2 months starting in April for adjusting for the production of coins that are counterfeit proof. And he thinks that's a bit exaggerated to shut it down for 2 months to do that. He says they usually do shut down the mint, but it's at the end of the year, not like now. So there is no official news about that, but he's hearing from some of his suppliers that are quite connected. You know, they know, work quite closely with the U.S. Mint. So that's quite interesting as well. Someone is asking Rafi if the Israeli central bank has any gold reserves.
No, they do not.
Oh, so they're like the Bank of Canada.
Yeah, no. Israel has a dependent, very unhealthy, dependent relationship on America. They consider America their father, and they do whatever America tells them, and they rely completely on the dollar. They think they worship the dollar. It's pretty gross. They don't have any gold, and yeah, it's going to destroy it here. I mean.
So they think they've got a bit of a claim to the 8,000 metric tons or so that the U.S. has. It's the same thing here in the UK. We've only got 300 metric tons, and if you look at Italy, France, and Germany, they've got over 2,000 metric tons. So I think the British as well think they can. They see themselves as a cousin to the Americans, and that the Americans will come to their rescue as well.
Well, I mean, the dome of the rock on the Temple Mount has a lot of gold on it. Maybe there's a whole bunch under the Temple Mount. If we find the Ark of the Covenant, that should be quite a bit there. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, let's see if we've got any more questions here. Yeah, next week is the Ides of March and the solstice. Let's see if we got some more questions.
Equinox.
It's the equinox, yeah. Rafi, oh no, yeah, someone is asking again if you got the vaccine. You have, haven't you? Yes. Someone's asking, Rafi, are you Jewish? Yeah, you answered that, Rafi.
Yes, I'm Jewish. Yes.
Okay.
No, but no, truthfully, I have not gotten vaccine, but I tell people, yeah, if I want to go into a store or something and they ask me if I'm vaccinated, I just say yes.
Yeah. The problem, I guess, will be, yeah, I'm not going to go too much. I would love to go a lot more into this question of what's happening in the last 12, 13 months. But the way I look at it, I was chatting with one of the viewers here yesterday. He sent me some messages. And I said, I'd love to cover all this. I've done so much research on things aside from finance, but I said, I don't want to, have my channel erased. And I think I can help people more by trying to help them protect themselves financially and help them safeguard, what they've been able to save over their lives, and also help them understand how you can stop financing these people. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. I'd love to talk more about the other things, but don't want to be deleted on YouTube. I know I've got other platforms, but I think once they delete you from YouTube, it's really tough to get as many followers as you get here. How do you feel about that, Rafi?
About talking about the vaccine.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who wants the vaccine, take the vaccine. I got no problem.
Yeah.
But the whole thing of trying to force people to vaccinate reminds me way too much of Dr. Mengele.
Yeah.
And I can't. It's not something I can be part of.
Good. It's okay. We'll stop at that then.
Yeah.
Let's see if. Let's see. Let's see. Irish Picker, how about a precious metals standard where all silver and gold are the basis of a currency? Well, Irish Picker, that has been the norm for the last 2,500–3,000 years. It's only been since 1971 and the 1960s, when a lot of the silver coinage was taken out of circulation, that we've had a fiat currency system. But even if our politicians, our leaders, our governments, our central banks don't go back on a gold or silver standard, we can be on a gold and silver standard ourselves by holding those metals, right, Rafi?
So I would say we have to get out of the habit of seeing everything in terms of a central plan. Even like, how are we going to fix money with this central plan? Everything's going to be backed by gold and silver. I don't even really favor a gold standard that's controlled by a central authority, because we've already seen that doesn't work. I mean, it starts out okay, and then they inflate it, and then they do all these tricks to, they gradually erode it. But what really is meant by gold and silver, buying gold and silver, is free market money. You want a free market in money where the best monies are the ones that circulate and the inflated monies die out.
Yeah.
And that is accomplished by free market competition in monies, where the companies that coin the best money get the commissions, and then you have consumer reports type services that check banks to see if they're inflating their supplies or not. You need a free market in this stuff. You can't have a centralized gold standard plan.
Yeah, and I think we need competition as well, because there's always going to be businesses out there, companies that, how can I say, are not honest, and but the free market regulates all of that. So yes, I think that's how it's got to be, because nowadays as well, a lot of people trust the regulators. The FCA here in the UK, the CFTC, which is a joke in the US, the SEC. So they think if financial products are regulated by these people, that it's safe, and it's not, and it gives them a false sense of security. I think the best regulator is the free market. I know Greenspan spoke about that, but we don't really have a free market these days, and we've got a monopoly, capitalism, or whatever, or crony capitalism, whatever you want to call it. Mr. Ashford, does Rafi have any thoughts on crypto and the recent rise of the DeFi space? I think maybe you want to talk about this non-fungible token.
I don't even know what DeFi is.
I think it's like an IPO market. There used to be initial coin offerings and airdrops a few years ago, but now they've changed the name and they just call it DeFi, decentralized finance.
Oh, okay. I mean, the concept of decentralized finance is fine, but like, what I mean, what's driving the crypto? What's driving crypto is the amount of dollars that are being printed. That's why crypto keeps going up, because wherever the bubble energy is, that's where more money goes. I mean, you take it logically. Take a step back logically for a second. You know, the once well, and I wrote an article about this. You can find it on Seeking Alpha. It's the most recent one that I wrote. The value of cryptocurrency is based on the value of the dollar, and the value of the dollar is based on the fact that it can still buy gold. So crypto is another layer of bubble on top of the dollar bubble, and now we're seeing that on top of the crypto bubble, we have these NFT, which is like crypto signed, blockchain verified digital copies of something. I mean, it's like air on top of air on top of air, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier and building on top of nothingness. I mean, yeah. How high will all this stuff go? And but yeah, you can buy crypto as a speculative asset if you want to try and guess where the top will be. Take some pocket change and buy some good Bitcoin if you want, but don't confuse it with money. It is not money.
Okay, good. I'm sure you get a lot of hate with that, but I don't. It's fine. We've got another question here for you, Rafi. Thank you, Chris Conman, for the super chat. Rafi, your thoughts when the U.S. Treasury issues a new DD? I think I don't know what the DD is. Is it a digital dollar that is not backed by gold? Won't spending abused by Congress continue if they don't?
If he's talking about central bank digital currencies, then there is no difference between that and the ACH system or bank wire. It's just another technology to transfer the same currency. What's the difference if it's a blockchain or not? I don't know why everyone's getting so worked up about these central bank digital currencies. They're the same what they have now. What's the difference?
I know. I think they're just trying to ride along. They're trying to use the popularity of crypto and Bitcoin to make their crappy fiat currencies look better.
Well, how's the Venezuelan Petra doing?
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Anyway, there's someone here who's asking Mario or Maneco64. We all will be using crypto as money backed by gold. We will use what they have paved the way. Every money is going to be backed by silver. Basically, executive order quadruple 10 will go back into effect. I think executive order, that executive order was one signed by JFK to issue silver certificates. Any thoughts on that?
I didn't have any thoughts on that. I mean, when you go into this arcane type of legal stuff, I think it's irrelevant. I don't think it's relevant. Executive Order 1110 Kennedy. I mean, I never even heard of this stuff. I'm sorry.
Yeah, some people argue that that's the reason why he was assassinated. I'm not too sure. Some people, I've heard of that executive order. I think some people probably put too much importance into that executive order and the fact that he was gunned down. But someone's saying here, Neil Moy, the Central Bank of France is thinking of buying Bitcoin. Have you heard about that, Rafi?
I haven't. That wouldn't change my feeling of my analysis of what Bitcoin is, which is built on top of the fiat pyramid, and it is not its own base. Because I want to say one more thing about that. If you go back to Mises went back to the very logical foundations of this question: what is money? Why do you have it? Why do you keep it? Because it had a value yesterday, and the reason it had a value yesterday is because it had a value the day before. So when did it start? It's the whole that value started when money was used in barter transactions, when gold was barter, and then it developed into a money from that, and from there the dollar developed, and then you have a value for the dollar, and then that's why you can estimate what costs are in dollar terms, and from the dollar then you have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is indexed to the dollar, not officially. The reason you know basically how much a Bitcoin can buy you in terms of goods and services is because you is because you know how much a dollar can buy you, more or less. So when the dollar falls, so does Bitcoin. Logically, it has to.
Yeah, we got here the world's most interesting man. His question is, we need a gold forecast, please. Lots of good theory, but make a forecast, please. That's why people listen in. Well, I'll say a couple of things. I think we put too much importance on for a fiat forecast for gold. I mean, if you look at Venezuela, as a few years ago, it was trading at 14,000 bolivars, and it dropped to like 8,000. If you'd gotten out there, you'd be wiped out by today. So my forecast is that gold and silver are going to continue to hold their purchasing power better than fiat currency. What forecast in terms of fiat currency gold and silver are going to be worth is very difficult to make. But I think the flip side is that I think fiat currency is going to become worth less and less, just like they've been since 1971, versus gold. And also their purchasing power is going to approach zero one day.
Well, so in terms of a forecast on my end, I can't see how this system continues past a year from now. That doesn't mean that I'm going all in and I don't have any fiat currency for trading purposes above that. I mean, I can make a forecast. This doesn't mean I'm going to buy my own words that seriously or take myself entirely seriously that I have to be right about the timing. But I don't see a way, considering how fast the money's being spent now and how much the bailouts are growing and growing, that this can survive much longer. I mean, I'd say a year. But I tend to think that once the Fed goes in with yield curve control, they're going, in order to do yield curve control, they're going to have to buy even more 10-year and 30-year bonds, but there aren't that many left. I mean, they already have most of them, and once they have the entire market, then they shot the moon. I mean, there's nothing else to buy, and then their whole balance sheet becomes worthless once they take up the entire bond market. There's not enough bonds in existence to control the yield curve.
Yeah, I think in Japan, they're having trouble finding JGBs. What about if I think there's talk of more stimulus for infrastructure by May already. They're talking about more. I mean, that might add on to the debt. They might have a bit more to buy, but how much more stimulus can you create?
I don't know. That's the whole problem with this SLR exemption extension thing. I mean, they're going into debt so fast, and the Fed is printing money so fast that the banks can't even legally accommodate it anymore.
Yeah.
So they're printing money so fast that it's outstripped the system's ability to even absorb it. So
and I think it's really dangerous because the banks, their balance sheets are getting huge, and that could be, very risky. It could bring the whole system down.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen, and we keep seeing the numbers go. I was just listening to someone who said that recently, and this I knew about, that the Fed has stopped publishing money supply numbers, and I've known about that, but I didn't know that they're on a 4-week lag. They're being published instead of weekly, they're published monthly. Instead of a 10-day lag, it's going to be on a 4-week lag. So above that, so it's like a 6-week lag. But also he noted that this is Robert Wenzel of Economic Policy Journal. He noted that the CIA, I never knew about this, but the CIA actually publishes money supply statistics for a bunch of different countries, I guess to monitor their financial situation. But now even they have stopped doing that, along with the Fed. So to me, this is a signal that, okay, they're about to just go vertical, and they just don't want us to see it.
That's the inflation. The M2 has grown by 25% in 12 months. to me, that's inflation. So when people talk about the real rate of being going up, because yields are going up and it's negative for gold, I say against what? Because it's against the CPI, which is heavily doctored. But if you look at real inflation, which is the growth of the money supply and credit, we've had 25% inflation in the last 12 months.
My advice is if you want to try to time this for yourself, monitor your food bills, check the prices of the things you buy and how much you're buying, and try to see how much your food costs are going up every month. And once it hits like 20-30% a month, we're almost there.
The other thing
that matters.
Yeah, the other thing that I saw today on Zero Hedge, and you might think, oh, this got nothing to do with what we're talking about. Earthquakes in Iceland, they've had 34,000 earthquakes recently, and that's a sign that you could have a massive volcanic eruptions. And historically, big volcanic eruptions are synonymous with a cooler weather and crops that are, how can I say, destroyed, food shortages. So that's another thing to think about, that, a big volcanic eruption in Iceland, something like that.
Okay.
Let's see, we still got 5 minutes. Yeah, is that all right with you? Another 5 minutes, Rafi?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, it's midnight where Rafi is in Israel. He's 2 hours ahead of London. Let's see. Lord Humongous, Los Angeles has been renamed to Liberia 2.0. Well, it's funny you should say that, Lord Humongous. I bought this $1 Liberian coin from 1962, and it's silver. So even Liberia had sound money. Look at that. It's a beautiful coin from Liberia. But I think I watched a program on Liberia years ago. I think it was on Vice TV. And I have to say, that place is really not a nice place. I mean, in terms of so much poverty and misery there, it's not good.
I think Lincoln had the idea of sending the slaves to Liberia at some point.
Was President Monroe, actually, James Monroe. That's why the capital is called Monrovia.
Oh,
I think it was in the 1830s. Yeah. Let's see if we got more questions here. Billy heard some silver. Oh, someone asked as well. Oh, Mary, do you have any coins from North Korea? No, I haven't. I haven't. Have you, Rafi? North Korean coins? No.
I don't have anything from North Korea. I mean, that would be really cool to have something from North Korea.
Yeah.
I don't even know what kind of money they have there.
The North Korean won, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Max Kaiser talked about a central bank collapse. Do you see this possibility?
Yes.
Yeah, I think a central bank collapse would be when their currency collapses, right, Rafi? Would you say so?
Yeah. Well, the central bank's asset is their money. Once the money dies, what's the point of the central bank anymore?
Yeah, and if the euro breaks up, for example, that would be very bullish for the Deutschmark, I think, because I think the Germans have had it quite good with the euro. I think if they had a Deutschmark, it would be a lot more a lot stronger. They wouldn't be doing as well. So let's see here. SDRs and CBDCs with negative rates. Hjorvi Bukovic, I think that's HRK. What currency is that? I think it's Slovakian or Hungarian krona. I'm not sure. Thank you for the super chat, Voji Butkovic. Thank you very much. Let's have a look here. Is there any out of the box thing that government could do to recover the fiat mess? I'll let you answer that.
There's nothing they can do to prevent the collapse of the pyramid. What
No.
they could, the only thing they could do is give up and say, okay, we're backing the dollar with gold at, going back to 1971 at $35 an ounce, and let everything else collapse, and have a good day.
Yeah, they've gone too far. You know, this is like you know, the analogy is someone who's a drug addict and they've been on heroin for 20 years. Um, if they don't stop, they're going to die. And if they stop, it's going to be really tough. So basically, they've gone too far, I think. Super Seamsters suing show. Going to poorhouse, but worthy cause. Thanks, Mario. Thank you for your super chat, Super Seamster. Okay, just take one more question and we'll call it a day.
All right.
Do you own a desktop scale device that can detect fake gold and silver, Rafi?
No, but I do. I mean, I have a magnet
Yeah.
that, and I have some basic knowledge on how to detect fake coins, which I've had to use. You know, especially in Israel, there's almost no way to get imported gold and silver here. I made one order with this gold and silver company, where I have to have the gold stored in Eilat, which is on the south end of the country, because they're the only one. The Eilat is the only city where there is no VAT. So I got to store it there for 3 months and then go, and then yeah. But if I get silver on the secondary market here, I need to know how to detect it. And there are ways, and it's not 100%. But if I want to take that risk, yeah, you got to be smart and you got to know what you're doing.
There's also because there's also an acid test that you can do with gold and silver, but then you have to like rub the coin or the bar a little bit and drop the acid. But the best thing is like a magnet, because gold and silver are not magnetic. So if it does stick to the magnet, then it's not gold and silver.
Yeah, so a magnet, a weight, you know,
Yeah.
make sure you have a scale, know what the
Yeah.
official weight of the coin that you're getting should be, and it should be very close to that. And then
Yeah.
you can do a volume test with water to see how much is displaced. I mean, there are certain things you could do.
Yeah, and make sure you also buy from a reputable dealer that's been around for a long time, even though nothing's guaranteed. So thank you everyone for showing up for the live stream. Hopefully I got as many questions as possible. We'll keep doing more of these Q&As. Thank you, HZJ, for your super chat. Rafi, thank you for being with us and taking, you know, giving us an hour of your time. And I wish you a good night's sleep.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.
Okay.
Okay.